Anything jump out at you about, anything Rule has said in the last however many days in terms of football? We got through the Big Ten West. We got through the offense.
I mean, I don't think he's had an availability yet where it's just been like, I already knew all that.
Yeah.
Honestly, we had a lot of those with Frost.
Oh, sure.
And I don't know that we've had a single one. I can't think of any where I haven't, taken some sort of.
I'm not sure Frost was always discovering things to himself, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
He had kind of a bad attitude.
I'd push it back all the way to Frank. I don't know that every time Rule talks, like last Saturday, he's hot and steamy and walking out the field in all black and comes up to the mic and gives us a good 20 minutes of stuff that's better than anybody the last 4 coaches ever gave us.
For sure.
So,
yeah.
And in a just sort of a matter-of-fact way.
Yeah.
So what I love about him so far, he talks football.
He does.
And there's not promises. There's not this. There's no hype. And we haven't heard much about hype this month from people. And it's just basic football stuff. And he talks little things. If you're a Nebraska fan, you get eat all that stuff up. It's great stuff. And we try to give it. We try to give all of it to you. So, but yeah, every time, what's he going to do Friday? Every time. So, yeah, I agree. That's what to me has been fascinating about this camp is it's been a X and O sort of a attention to detail type of camp and all the statements.
Well, I don't know if you guys saw the third episode of that A Look In that Nebraska put out.
You
last
know that
night.
I did.
I know you did. We were texting about it a little bit, but like the part in the most recent drop where he's talking with the guys on the field about redshirting and this idea like, hey, here's your presumed starting offense now. Who's a senior in eligibility, and those guys walk off the field, and there's like
Jeff Sims ran off.
Yeah,
the field.
there's like 4 guys left on the field, and it's like, okay, so now that's the next wave of guys in, and it's not about talent, it's about perfecting your craft, and you do that. You can do that on the scout team, and so many great players redshirted. Like just the teacher side of him, and we've talked about how he can turn a phrase and present things to people that just sort of sticks a little bit more. And it just feels like that was just another great example. We're into that phase now where, okay, they're going to drop a depth chart on Friday, and we're going to make a lot out of it and dissect it. And there'll be guys who redshirt, and like he was ahead of the curve there and being sure to tell those guys, look, it's okay to redshirt. It's an opportunity to keep grinding. Like just stuff like that. It just there's always a purpose behind every little thing, and the way he says it continues to impress me.
Yeah, I thought he was going to, when Jeff Sims ran off, I thought he was going like, Jeff, come back. Like, not that Jeff Sims can't play in the NFL, but like I think they'd like to have.
How
Jeff
about we
Sims
have you for 24
just
as well?
2 years?
Yeah.
Hey, Chubba, Heinrich, I'm sorry, Jeff, come on. But a lot of guys ran off the field who are not like technically seniors, but I get what they were doing. We saw what the first team defense was, at least in practice last week.
Mm-hmm.
It was Nash Hupmaker, Ty Robinson, Cam Linhard, Nick Henrich, MJ Sherman, Luke Reimer, Quentin Newsom, and Malcolm Hartzog, and the safeties were Deshaun Singleton, Omar Brown, and Isaac Gifford.
How about that, Deshaun Singleton?
And then on the radio last night, Matt Rule said the thing about Deshaun Singleton making the really big jump. Now, I will say, and you can remember me saying this a long time back, I thought Deshaun Singleton's tape was outstanding out of JUCO. This is a guy that was a 6'3", 200-pound safety who could really seriously run with receivers across the field, 10 yards downfield, crossing routes. He was running with them like he was a man guy. So there was some things about his game that I thought were really impressive. He got here. I think he impressed Travis Fisher. But then everybody knows what happened. Like, those guys, Fisher was not really in charge of the defense or even really in charge of the safeties after the third or fourth game.
Right.
I mean, he was out. So they kind of did what they did. I do think at times in the safety backfield last year there was a little bit of a liability. I don't think they were as fast as they could be. I think they're going to get faster and longer and more athletic. So that was something that jumped out at me. Like I think he usually has something interesting to say. I was struck about his radio comment praising Minnesota as much as he did. He said, they play the way that Nebraska used to play for many years, and it's the way we want to play. And I thought that was a very respectful toward PJ Fleck.
Right.
And I know what he means by it. He's, the 90s Huskers were better than Minnesota today, but I thought it was very respectful.
I think he's a little bit of a straight shooter, and I think that's good. It's good to have to play games with with opponents and just tell like it is. And there's a lot to like from Minnesota.
Right. The previous coaching staff did not care or respect
It was
Minnesota
all
very
about
much.
personalities and egos. I mean, that's not what this is all about.
Yeah. It was interesting just to kind of hear him last night talk about a few of the things. This week we have a press conference on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that'll preview the Minnesota football game, Rule players. And then Monday we have Marcus Satterfield and players. And then I think then the Rule on Tuesday, and then they depart.
And that's it. Yeah.
We will have another podcast before Volleyball Day in America, and we will talk about how cool that's going to be. But next week's going to be really interesting for Husker Athletics because they're going to have a celebration unlike any other in school history. And then they're going to have a really important football game. Like, they're not playing Illinois State. If they win that game, the buzz around this state a week from, 7 days from now is going to be, it's going to be palpable. I'm not saying they're going to win the game. In fact, I'm probably going to predict they don't. But if they do, everything that's happened in the previous 9 months will hit an overdrive. And Matt Rule may have a new challenge.
Right.
Which is convincing his players that they're not all that in a bag of chips.
Well, I put it out on Twitter too. Like, if they beat Minnesota? What do you compare that to in the last 6 years? Because they've lost 20 whatever straight against ranked opponents, going back to Oregon 2016. But since then, Iowa last year, probably the biggest win since 2017. Yeah. Michigan State 2018. The list is very short. This immediately vaults up there as one of the biggest wins in the last 7 years.
Until the next one.
No question.
Sure.
Until they lose to Colorado, then, well, saying, you have to add up the importance. Yeah, you can take the snapshot and say, yeah, this is incredible. Everybody's fired up, but then you got to keep going.
Right.
If you don't go to a bowl game, what does it mean?
Which one do you think the fan base would rather Nebraska win, Colorado or Minnesota?
Colorado.
I agree.
Dion and the old Buff deal and one for old time's sake.
Yep.
A lot of people deny Colorado is up there in their head, but it's there, and I always see it when Colorado loses a game. Yes, they're always paying attention. So
yep. I agree, totally agree.
I think it's Minnesota's not there, maybe never be there. I don't think anybody in the Big Ten's there. I don't think there's anybody that's that emotional. Iowa kind of getting there, but Nebraska hasn't beaten them yet. I don't feel like I just don't feel like the games haven't meant. The Colorado Nebraska game used to mean everything.
Yeah.
On different levels.
Yeah.
That was a manhood game for even fans. We don't like you, and you're making fun of us.
Mm-hmm.
All their cheerleaders are cows. They don't have indoor plumbing.
Mm-hmm.
All the columnists wrote this stuff. It was all on talk radio. It was this was before Twitter, but yeah, normally, a classy columnist would write this crap.
Yeah.
And it all started with the head coach, and the media there fed into it. And it became, I've never seen a series, and we can talk about this in 2 weeks, but a series that was more about that stuff than it was never about football. Nobody ever talked football.
Right, it was mean-spirited.
Nobody ever talked about
For sure.
the X and O game. What we always did with everybody else.
Yeah.
Colorado was just like, here come the farmers against the hippies and the cool kids, and we're so much cooler than you, and it was outrageous, and I got sick of it. I got just sick of everything. So, but the games, you go back and look at the games, really, really good games.
Yeah, they were.
But
yeah, the players clearly wanted to win.
That's for 2 weeks. But
no, that's good. No, I agree. I think Colorado, one of the reasons, it's for all the things you mentioned, but also this, that fans' expectation of winning at Minnesota is actually kind of low. Like if Nebraska loses 20-17, everybody would be like, I don't know. But then the expectation to beat Colorado, based on the fact that it's brand new and they have a completely new team, is pretty high.
Right.
And it's fed by this bitterness of losing all these games to Colorado a couple years ago and all this other stuff. So, clear now, they're both important. Now, if you were just looking straight up, which game matters more than another, it'd be the Minnesota game because it's for the Big Ten standings. But that's not how Nebraska fans think.
I really think the first.
I wonder
two
if
games,
Rule understands that. I think he will understand it, but
yeah, I don't know.
Tends to.
He will, because he was a fan in the 90s, so he is going to, in 2 weeks, he'll be able to say, I remember this, and this from the 90s. He will be able to say that, because I think he will have recalled.
He'll say he watched those games on Black Friday and
Sure.
so on and so forth. Yep.
His freshman year at Penn State was 94, and Penn State had a great team that went undefeated, and the reason that Nebraska won both national titles that year is because they beat Colorado. And they beat them so decisively.
Penn State didn't play anybody like Colorado.
They didn't. That's right.
I argue that with the Penn State people all the time, and and also, Nebraska won it because they beat Miami in the Orange Bowl.
Right.
And I know that wasn't a great Miami offense, unbelievable defense.
Yeah.
But they beat him in the Orange Bowl, and Tom hadn't won it. It was time to give Tom the deal. And Penn State beat Oregon.
They beat Oregon,
which
was not Miami in the Orange Bowl.
That's like Michigan beating Washington State that year. It's like, okay. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, I was watching that game is on Big Ten Network all the time. I love watching that 94 Colorado game. And it was a bloodbath. It was a hard-hitting, old-fashioned, not many guys walking off the field type of game. And wasn't a lot of scoring, some early, but nobody Penn State played was like Colorado.
No. So I'm guessing he remembers that. I'm guessing that Rule remembers what that rivalry meant, and we'll talk about it in 2 weeks.